What's up, my ranters? Today I have something extra special for you. I was digging around in some abandoned building and I found in the basement, among a bunch of crosses and like religious stuff, this book. And it's called The Book of the Dead. Now I figured I might as well read a little passage from it for you. Before I do that though, what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to gather all your family and all your friends in the same building, in the same room if you're feeling zesty, and listen to this as I read it aloud for you. All right? And I know what you're thinking. Ryan, why the hell do you want to recite some demon summoning ritual? Isn't that a bad idea? And my answer, my response is, maybe, but like, demon summoning? What's the worst that could happen, right? Anyway, you got everyone gathered together now? All right, here we go. Kanda, Estrada, Kandos, Turus, Indactus, Sharindus, Kanda, Amantos, Ganda. All right, now, yeah, so, I don't know, I guess, I guess nothing's really happened then. Cool. Oh, flip, dude. What the hell? Uh, uh, oh. All right, I'm not bleeding at least. Well. Yeah, all right, probably fine. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video where today I'm checking off another iconic, beautiful, I guess, horror franchise. That's right, I love going through these, and today we are of course looking at all of the Evil Dead movies. But that of course means we have to start with the first Evil Dead, The Evil Dead from 1981.
I fear that the only way to stop those possessed by the spirits of the book is through the act of bodily dismemberment.
All right, yeah, it's The Evil Dead. Wow. This movie, I think it's good for what it is. It's definitely a very low budget, kind of like indie, self-made movie type of deal. It's one of, if not the first movie that Sam Raimi directed, so good job, Sam Raimi. You made a good first impression. Now, part of that is because of the controversy that surrounds this movie, which is basically just the tree scene where I forget what her name is. I think Ash's sister is the one that gets raped by the trees. The thing is, in modern day, like that type of imagery and that type of like picture put in a movie is not like that rare or that unusual. I don't think this movie would have really sparked much controversy if it were modern, but back in the day it certainly did. And that's not me defending this, right? I think that it makes sense why it's in the movie. It is to show that these people are completely basically helpless against these demon deadite things, and that very dark supreme evil is here, and that evil gets off on being just insanely fucked up in any sort of way, really. So the main gist of this movie is Ash Williams, chainsaw hand guy, played by Bruce Campbell. He's here. It's kind of weird because he's not really introduced as like the main character of the movie. It's just kind of something that happens as it progresses. Originally, I wouldn't have really thought that he was a main character if I didn't know who he was. Yeah, he and his girlfriend Linda and his sister and his friend who is a guy and that guy's, I think, girlfriend, maybe? Yeah, they go to this horribly desertly remote cabin in the woods that is very run down and not in great condition. I guess because they got it for cheap. I think that's the only line where they really talk about that. But they're there to vacation, maybe? I don't really know what it is that they're doing there. But basically, the other guy goes down into the basement and he finds a weird book and a shotgun, and he brings it up. Oh, and a tape recorder. There's a tape recorder down there. One of them starts playing the tape recording, and it's this doctor guy maybe, and he's talking about how it's the Necronomicon, which is how they pronounce it in most of the movies. I would pronounce it Necronomicon personally, aka the Book of the Dead. Now, this isn't important yet, but this is one Book of the Dead. There are three. All of the Ash Williams movies are supposedly with this one volume or whatever of the Necronomicon. They play the tape recording, and the guy that is recording it is reading out the words out loud off the book, and he even says that it is a demon summoning ritual, and he just goes ahead and says it anyway. But then this also spawns the Deadites for modern day people who are in this cabin. We see these really cool, shots of the camera just flying through the forest and whatever. And then the Deadites are here, and I think the Deadites are fine. I don't personally really like the effects work for them. Now, this is 1981, and it's also very budget, very indie. So it's not like they're going to have like a major budget to be able to do effects work here, but I just personally don't really love how the Deadites look in this movie. I do think that the performances of the Deadites are pretty good. I really like how insane and crazy they are, and the fact that they just like fully just are taunting these people. I really enjoy that. I think the Deadites are very unique and special in that regard, but ultimately the movie is just kind of fine. It's kind of what you would expect roughly from this type of movie. The Deadites slowly basically possess the characters one by one, and they end up dying in various forms. It's kind of weird because Ash's girlfriend Linda kind of ends up being like the main like tragedy of this movie, which I found weird because I feel like Ash should be at least equally upset about his sister dying and turning into a possessed Deadite, and that he just doesn't really seem to care about her at all after a point. Also, Ash gives Linda like a magnifying glass necklace or something. I don't know what it is, but it's kind of stupid. But yeah, like I said, this movie's kind of just fine to me. Like, I appreciate it for what it is. It's very low budget noticeably, but to give credit, it is a very well shot movie. It's a very fun shot movie. Like the camera angles and the editing and stuff, and the effects, even though I don't personally like how the Deadites look most of the time, the effects generally I really like. I think that they're all done well. There's a lot of blood, but this is not the Evil Dead movie to kind of like judge the franchise as a whole on. I think there's a good amount of people that would watch this movie and go, yeah, but I don't really get what the appeal is about this franchise. Like, why should I watch the rest of the movies? Like, yeah, it's okay, but I don't get why people love this franchise. And that is certainly true about this movie. It's like, it's here. It sets things up for Evil Dead 2, which in my opinion is a vast improvement and greatly carries this franchise into what it ends up being and where I think it should have gone. But with that being said, that means it's time to talk about Evil Dead 2 from 1987.
Swallow your soul! Swallow your soul!
Swallow this.
All right, and now we're at Evil Dead 2, and this is interesting because it kind of ignores the continuity. The continuity in this franchise is not always the best. Now, the reason for it in this case is because I believe, I don't remember which company, basically wouldn't allow them to use the rights of the original Evil Dead movie, and so they couldn't reuse clips or images or footage from that movie to do like a recap. So basically they reshot parts and shot new parts to bring people up to speed for the sequel, and that just meant that everyone is excluded from it except for Ash's girlfriend Linda and Ash, of course. It kind of creates this weird feeling where you're like, oh, I guess that movie doesn't really matter then, because they don't even really talk about or mention that ever. It's kind of a mess, but that's okay because Evil Dead 2 is pretty damn good. So the main thing about Evil Dead 2 is that it greatly ups the comedy and the like slapstick nature of the Evil Dead franchise. Bruce Campbell in this movie in particular has like the most insane acting, and I mean that in the most affectionate way possible because I love him in this movie.
Groovy.
He also has the physical comedy slapstick prowess of like Jim Carrey in this movie, and that's a very high compliment because Jim Carrey is one of my favorite actors. Now, does the comedy always work for me? No, not particularly. I think that sometimes it tries to do a little too much where it could have like reeled it in just a little bit, just a smidgen. But overall, like, I think that this movie is very funny and it works very well in that regard. The main, I guess, disappointment is that Evil Dead 2, it blends in with the Evil Dead, the original, because again, we're following kind of the similar pattern. We are doing like a recap, remake sort of the first movie, and also we're bringing in these other characters that are kind of just like copies of the original cast. It works for me, but again, I think that like these two movies together kind of blend together in a way. But the general idea of Evil Dead 2 is that Linda is dead still, and Ash is a deadite now. He becomes possessed and he gets flung through the forest and he lands in a puddle. Ash gets very wet. Well, actually, a lot of the cast gets very wet and sloppy in these movies, but Ash ends up becoming possessed and is a deadite. And then the sun shows up, and for some reason that means he's not possessed anymore. He returns back to the cabin because it's turning nighttime very quickly for some reason, and then his hand gets possessed. I don't even remember how, to be honest with you. This is where he takes the chainsaw and he cuts off his hand, and the hand is still wriggling around like Addams Family style, but it's evil. Yeah, this is where Ash finally loses his hand, which is actually his right hand, I believe, because Bruce Campbell is left-handed and he wanted to have his left hand available for things, so he chose to have it be his right hand. And there's a bunch of great moments throughout. Like I said, the slapstick quality of this is top tier. Like there's a moment where he like shoots into the wall at the hand and like blood geysers come out, and then like the whole house is like becomes like laughing and doing shit, and it's insane in the most fun way. But eventually we see that the people that were at this cabin beforehand, I think they're like the Nobies, basically the doctor or whatever that found the Book of the Dead, brought it here to study it, and then his wife ended up getting possessed and he had to like kill her or something. Now his daughter and the daughter's boyfriend and then two random people just in the woods that help him out end up showing up to the cabin. They have new pages from the Book of the Dead that I guess weren't in the Book of the Dead for some reason, and they show up, and at first they think Ash killed the girl's parents because, well, there's blood everywhere and like a shotgun and a chainsaw. Honestly, it's a reasonable assumption. And then this is where the movie kind of blends in, where it's just kind of a similar just mix of stuff going on, where it's from the first movie. This movie's still well made. Obviously, it's still Sam Raimi. I think that this movie also has like a tree or woods scene where the woman gets assaulted in some way, but they tone it down because Sam Raimi kind of talked about how he regretted it to a degree. I don't know. Again, the people get possessed, they die one by one, and I don't even remember what leads to the climax, but at some point, in order to stop the whole thing, they realize that they have to recite words from the lost pages, the ones that the girl brought to the cabin, and that it'll allow the demon to show up in like physical form, and then it can be banished to back when it was or whatever, or where it came from. I don't know. It's messy. So she starts doing that while Ash is dealing with stuff. and then a big weird head thing shows up at the door, and a portal opens and it starts sucking things through it. Everyone dies except for Ash, and then at the end of the movie he gets sucked into the portal and he gets back into medieval times, and then he kills a deadite and he's praised. So yeah, Evil Dead 2, absolutely very fun movie. I highly recommend it. Frankly, you don't even have to watch The Evil Dead, the original. You're not going to be missing out on like important lore or anything. So if you're more of a comedy horror type of person, you can do that. The end of this movie leads to medieval Ash, and that's where the next movie goes. So that means it's time to talk about Army of Darkness from 1992.
When the world needed a hero, what it got was him.
Groovy.
So what is Army of Darkness, you say? Well, I say it's barely horror at this point. This is where the movie leans so far into the comedy and the slapstick nature of it. And in my opinion, I think it does too much of that. I don't love this one as much. I think that it abandons the core of what the franchise is. And again, this movie once again retcons continuity or whatever. Instead, Ash is immediately like brought in as a slave, and he's to be thrown in the pit, and he goes in the pit. There's a couple of deadites down there. He defeats them with the help of the wise man who throws him down the chainsaw, and it's honestly a really cool shot where he leaps up and it just and it connects to his hand magically, beautifully. And then what the rest of the movie is Ash just doing stuff. Yeah, that's kind of how I can describe it. He has to go and find the Book of the Dead so that he can return to his timeline, then maybe defeat the Deadites, which is what the people are hoping for. But he's just like, I want to get back to my time, because this is the movie where Ash gets characterized as kind of like sex-hungry, egotistical, and also like self-centered kind of guy. He still has some heroic qualities about him for sure, but to be frank with you, I don't really love this like depiction or characterization of Ash, mostly because like I just don't like him as a guy for the main hero of the movie, of kind of the franchise. It's a little disappointing to see him be like kind of a shithead. The only reason he ends up deciding to save all of these people at the end of the movie instead of just being selfish and going back to his time is because the girl that he kissed one time got kidnapped, and he wants to kiss the girl again, probably. I don't know.
Give me some sugar, baby.
He's still really good. Bruce Campbell is still really good in this movie. This is where like some of the most iconic lines from Ash come from.
You found me beautiful once.
Honey, you got real ugly.
So like, I appreciate it. It's good. It's just not my favorite portrayal of him. I think that this portrayal of him should have been saved more for the TV show, though they didn't know the TV show was going to happen. Like I said, there's not really much plot to talk about. There's kind of just like slapstick stuff. He goes to look for the Book of the Dead. He gets chased away by one of the camera flying deadite things into a windmill. He sees himself in a mirror. He shatters the mirror, and then a bunch of tiny little Ash Williams pop out and start terrorizing him. I don't know why they did that. It doesn't really add much to the movie, frankly. I think it looks pretty fine. I think it's funny to a degree, but this is where the movie goes like just too much. It leans into too much territory. And then he goes to the cemetery where he finds the Book of the Dead times 3. There's 3 of them. I think originally they were kind of going to talk about how 2 of them weren't real, but later movies, specifically once we get to like Evil Dead Rise, decide to say that no, actually, there are 3 separate books of the dead, which I like. I think that's smart. I appreciate it because it allows the franchise to move beyond Ash Williams specifically. It doesn't have to involve him anymore, which, by the way, I love Ash Williams, but I think that with every horror franchise that runs on, I think that ultimately it does usually end up being not great if they continue to drag a character through the mud and make it that one character that has to be the focus every single time. That's why I really liked the new Scream movies, not 7, because they were still letting the legacy characters have their importance, but they were slowly evolving into, here's this new cast of characters. and then we got what we got. But yeah, he basically just takes one of the books and he fails to say the words correctly. So that's what causes the army of the dead to rise up, and they're all skeletons. And then the rest of the movie is just kind of medieval comedy war between normal medieval knights and stuff versus a skeleton army. Also, there's evil ash that splits off like a mitosis being from ash and looks real ugly. And I don't even really like evil ash either, to be honest with you. He's an okay, I guess, villain for the movie, but doesn't really do much for me. But evil ash wants the Book of the Dead, I guess, for his own evil deeds, and so they have to battle. And wouldn't you know it, Ash and the people win. Crazy, I know, but that's what happens. And then he kisses the girl one more time before going back to his time where he works at S-Mart. Shop Smart, S-Mart, and then I don't know, for some reason there's like a deadite that shows up there and attacks him. Yeah, that's kind of just Army of Darkness. I frankly don't know what to say about it because a lot of it is just like comedy, slapstick, doesn't really drive the movie forward in any way. It's just kind of here to be funny. And if that's for you, I'm happy for you. It's not really my thing. I do like horror comedies, but this isn't even really horror anymore. It's kind of just purely comedy, but not necessarily in a bad way, just in a way that isn't like to my taste personally. But that means we only have 2 more movies. So we have to start with Evil Dead from 2013.
Please. You have to get me out of here.
All right, we've made it to official 2010s reboot remake era of the franchise, which seemingly is kind of inevitable for most major horror movies or franchises. So that's cool, right? This is a movie that a lot of people really love, and I can understand that to a degree. This movie returns to form and makes it like almost purely horror. This is a very dark movie. It's much darker than any previous movies. I think that generally speaking, it's good. I don't think it's as good as like everyone I've seen online seems to like enjoy it to be. I just don't think it's that good personally. But basically the idea is that this isn't a reboot. Well, I guess it is technically a reboot. It's more of a reboot than a remake because this still is within the same continuity, same canon as the original trilogy, but this is also kind of a remake because it's dealing with the same idea. There's a brother and his sister and 3 other people, again like the original basically, and they're at a cabin in the woods like the original. I think it's even maybe meant to be the same cabin. The Pontiac or whatever car that Ash drives is like rusted and dilapidated in the background, but maybe it's not the same cabin. Maybe it's just like meant to be like this for some reason. I kind of assumed it was the same cabin because of the car and also the clock. Yeah, there's a clock continuity. No, for real though, there's an antique clock that I think, if I'm not mistaken, has been in every movie, but weirdly enough, that clock is in like every Evil Dead movie. I don't know. I think it's funny though. But yeah, it's a brother and a sister. They're here specifically because the sister, her name is Mia. So Mia has a heroin addiction and they have brought her here, her friends, and her brother shows up to help. In order to help her quit cold turkey, which I don't know why they don't just take her to an official facility or something, but they're like, we're locking her here and we're staying here in this dingy, disgusting cabin that's rotten and falling apart because we couldn't find anywhere better for some reason. And she is the first character to get possessed in any way by the Deadites. She is the character that has the tree scene happen to her. It also introduces some Deadite demon character, girl, woman, being, creature thing. I believe she's called the Abomination. When I saw her, I just thought she was Deadite Mia, to be honest with you. I thought that it was like playing tricks on her and it's like, here's what your future looks like. This is what you're going to turn out to be. But also, This is a separate Book of the Dead. This is like the second one now. So woohoo! The whole thing is that this Book of the Dead, its goal is to bring about the abomination, which is when like a blood rain will happen after it's collected like 5 souls or something. Anyway, there's a bunch of characters that I don't really care about because they're not really important, and also I generally don't really love this first part of the movie. This movie, in my opinion, gets carried by the ending, by the finale. The beginning of this movie is just kind of generic. I don't even think the acting is that good, except for Mia. I don't really like the characters that much. I don't care about any of what's happening, really. They kill the dog, which, fuck you. Also, the dog's name is Grandpa. Who the fuck names their dog Grandpa? Anywhoosies, Mia's the first one that gets possessed. She attacks them. She gets locked up in the basement because, again, it's kind of a remake and we're following the same general path. Oh yeah, she like scalds. She like burns her face. Mia does, because the shower is boiling water. And then the nurse friend takes a piece of glass and cuts her like face up, and like you see her teeth and everything through it. It's gnarly. Good effect. She gets killed pretty quickly, the Deadite version of her. The brother's girlfriend is here. She has the thing happen where her hand or arm gets infected and she cuts it off with like a meat carver. It doesn't even work for her. So she still ends up being possessed and like shooting people with a nail gun and everything. The one character that I want to talk about is the guy friend. He has glasses, long hair. He's a fucking dumbass. This guy finds the Book of the Dead in the basement. It's covered in a trash bag, wrapped around in barbed wire, in a room of dead hanging cats because of witchcraft. And he goes, "No, I should read this actually." He opens it up and there's a bunch of like scribbles on it from like the witch or whatever from the beginning of the movie or something, probably, that is like, "Don't read this book, close it now, this is very dangerous." And this fucking dumbass goes, "Actually, I think I'm gonna read it. And better yet, I'm gonna read it out loud." Listen, Ash and his friends were not very smart either. They played the tape recording with the weird book with the face on it, but at least there, I kind of get it because it wasn't wrapped in barbed wire and doesn't have a bunch of warning labels on it. So anyway, also this guy, I mean, he deserves it, but this guy gets so fucked up in this movie. I don't know how he survives as long as he does, which is impressive because he gets stabbed like right here. He gets shot with multiple nails from the nail gun. He gets bashed over the head with a crowbar multiple times. I don't know how this fucker does it, but he's got something in him, and I want to know what he's got so I can have it. But yeah, anyway, the brother doesn't want to like do anything. He doesn't want to like stop this because that would mean like killing his sister Mia, which I guess is reasonable, but also like it's demons. At that point, you gotta do what you gotta do. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, come on. I will say though, I do appreciate them kind of emphasizing the brother and sister bond. I also think that her like addiction and withdrawals are treated kind of in an interesting way. She's not believed by anyone because she's going through withdrawals, and they think she's just going crazy and trying to get them to take her out of there so she can do more drugs, which is not the case. She's just possessed and seeing ghosts and demons and shit. Then the brother's like, "You know what? I'm gonna bury my sister alive, and then I'm gonna bring her back to life with like needles and a car battery or something. And that's gonna save her." And to his credit, it does. For some reason, he goes to like burn the cabin or something and he gets burned in it. But I guess for some reason this counts as consuming 5 souls. And then the abomination spawns with the blood rain. And this is where the movie, hey, this is where the movie is really good. This is where I go, oh, actually, I understand what all the hype is about. I understand now. I like the abomination. I think it's cool. I really like all the scenes with Mia. She's a badass. She uses the chainsaw because every movie has to have a chainsaw. It's Evil Dead. Get with the program. At one point, the abomination fully flips the car over on top of her hand. So she has to like be strong-willed and rip her arm apart from it so she can be free and reach the chainsaw to kill the abomination. And she does. So we have another handless character that uses a chainsaw. All right. Yeah. Again, remake, but reboot. I'm just kind of assuming it's some weird, like, chosen one shit, because Ash does have that going for him. He is like a chosen one. So I'm assuming it's kind of similar idea with Mia. But yeah, that's the 2013 Evil Dead movie. I think it's fine. Again, the end really carries for me, but we still have one more movie to talk about, and that is Evil Dead Rise from 2023.
No matter how busy you ever got, you always found time for me. I can't believe I'm never gonna speak to you again.
Okay, so I really like Evil Dead Rise. I think it's a very fun movie, and yeah, let's talk about it. The movie opens with like the best, well, it doesn't open immediately with this. There's a lead up and everything. But this movie opens with like the best title card of the entire franchise, and frankly, one of the best title cards I've ever seen for a horror movie in general. So already starting very strong. And we cut to Beth, who is one of the sisters in this movie, and she's a guitar technician or something. And she finds out that she's pregnant, and she kind of runs away because she doesn't know what to do with that information, and it's freaking her out. So she goes to see her sister Ellie, who lives in this like condemned apartment that they are leaving soon because it's condemned. Ellie has 3 children, toomps to girls, wumps to boys. They're of varying ages. The boy is at least 16, I think, because he's capable of driving. The youngest girl is probably still in elementary school, if I had to guess. Yeah, so the Beth shows up, and Beth is not the best sister. She's basically like, "Hey Ellie, where's your like husband?" And then Ellie's like, "Oh, my husband? The one that left me like 2 months ago, and I called you several times and left voicemails saying, hey, he left me and I could really use like my sister right now. That husband?" Right, yeah. Yeah, he's gone. So immediately there's like a bit of a clash between the two of them. But while they're having like an adult talk, basically Ellie tells her children to go get a pizza. They go get a pizza. They come back. There's an earthquake. The earthquake causes a hole in like the parking garage part of the building, and the boy goes down there. He finds the Book of the Dead. This is the 3rd one, but he finds 3 books and some vinyl records with recordings on them. But basically he takes it up, and they get back in the apartment. He opens the book. It's a toothy guy, and it cuts him a little bit or pricks him, and he drops some blood on the book. The book opens, and it's typical Book of the Dead stuff that looks real bad and evil and terrible, and the sister's like, "Hey, can you put that away, please?" Even though he's like, "Fine." He didn't say anything about the recordings though. So he starts playing the records, and for some reason they're on like half speed, so he has to like spin it faster so it's normal speed. The first record is basically like, "Here's what we found is some evil shit at like the Catholic Church is like trying to figure out evil or whatever," which I think is a fun tertiary note to add to this movie, where Catholicism and religion is kind of a thing. It makes sense that the Catholic Church would find something like the Book of the Dead and want to figure it out and like banish it in some way. But yeah, he plays it, and the guy's talking about how he will now recite the like demon summoning ritual or whatever. Oh, we've been down this road before. And to give the kid credit, he does try to stop it from playing. He's hearing this, and he's going, "Actually, don't think I need to hear that. Doesn't sound good. I'm going to turn this off." And then the record player will not stop, and it just keeps playing anyway. Should he have played it in the first place? No, but also he's a dumb kid. And so like I give him credit, certainly more than the adults from the previous movies. But yeah, Ellie's doing laundry, and she's in the elevator, and it spawns the deadite, the camera thing, and it flies into her in the elevator. And then the tree scene happens, but with electrical electrical wires and stuff from the elevator. And I thought it was pretty cool that they found a way to do it again, but like not be trees and vines and shit again. And then Ellie's possessed. She goes back to the apartment. She makes some eggs. She talks about how she wants to like cut apart her children and live inside of them. And then like Ellie snaps into reality for a second, looks at Beth and goes,
Don't let it take my babies.
I really like the dynamic of this, kind of forcing Beth, the black sheep of the family, to like take care of the children and be a parent in a way because she's preggers. This movie has very fun things, and the performances, oh, such good performances. Specifically, Ellie, played by, I think it's Alyssa Sutherland, by far my favorite Deadite performance.
Mommy's with the maggots now.
And also, quite possibly just one of my favorite like evil villain performances in any horror movie. Like, it is up there. She, I think, does a really good job.
Nothing a big old kiss from you won't fix. Open up now.
She's not on par with like, you know, the big names of like horror, like Ghostface or Jason or whatever, but they're silent killers. She's not a silent killer, so she is special in that way, and she just has a hell of a performance. I think all of the performances are really good in this movie. I think all the kids do well. By the way, the little girl is played by the same actress that would go on to be Holly Wheeler in Stranger Things, and the boy is the actor that would go on to play that one character in live action One Piece. So yeah, some of these people have done pretty well for themselves after this, but then the neighbors interrupt and become her snack or whatever. They lock her out of the apartment. Oh yeah, she like tries to like tattoo like needle the daughter's face, the older daughter, and that ends up getting infected, so the older daughter gets possessed, and then she attacks them. The brother also ends up getting possessed. So now it's just Beth and the youngest daughter, and she has to take care of her and protect her. And there's this cute little moment where the daughter talks to Beth. She's like, "You'd be a good mom."
You know how to lie to kids.
And I think that's really cute. But then Beth and the daughter calculate an escape plan. They're going to like use a fire escape or something, but then Ellie and her two children, who are deadites, merge into like this weird abomination creature that reminds me of like Inside. They end up in the elevator, and the elevator starts filling with blood, and it's so heavy, so it crashes, and then you know, definitely a Shining reference, but I think that this is a pretty well done Shining reference. And then they have to try to escape the parking garage. Again, Beth ends up finding a chainsaw next to a wood chipper. With the help of teamwork, they end up pushing the crawler thing into the wood chipper as Beth takes the chainsaw and just, breaks through it, and it's really good looking and a really bloody movie, which is kind of what these have to be at this point, which I'm not complaining about. And then we get a great ending, a happy ending, I guess, even though two siblings and mother are dead. Yeah, that's not great. But Beth doesn't lose a hand, so that's a positive, I guess, right? This movie does bring back some of that dark comedy that I really appreciate. Evil Dead 2013 was not really funny at all. It was just kind of very dark and serious, and also just like a really bland, boring looking movie for the most part. It has that 2010s reboot remake problem where the movies are just so brown and drab and colorless. Rise does not have that issue. It's got a lot of personality, like the set decorations and everything are like truly incredible, makes it feel like a real apartment full of actual like kids and a mom, and it's a very well done. But now that I'm done talking about the movies, I suppose it's time for me to rank them. All right, it's time to rank these movies. Yes. Starting in last place, aka fifth place, I'm going to put Army of Darkness. I'm sorry, Evil Dead OG fans. I didn't love Army of Darkness. It didn't really work for me a lot of the time. It was kind of boring sometimes, which is bad for a comedy. I didn't really love the comedy at all times. It's just not the movie for me. I understand why people like it. It just leans too much into stuff in a direction that is not up to my personal taste. So it is my least favorite of the Evil Dead movies. In fourth place, I'm going to put put The Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead movie, because it's just kind of fine. It's a good movie. It's a well-made movie. I think that for the budget and for the indie quality and for like an early Sam Raimi project, this is quite well done. And I think that it has some really good parts to it. But at the end of the day, I just don't love it that much. A lot of the characters are kind of meh to me. I don't really love how the Deadites look as much. And it's certainly not a bad movie, but it's not quite there for what the franchise can achieve yet. You know what I'm saying? And then in third place, I'm going to put Evil Dead 2013. It's weird because as I was watching it, once we got to the climax and the finale part of the movie, I was like, oh yeah, this movie rocks. And then afterwards, with like ruminating in my thoughts, I went, oh, actually, I don't know if I love this movie that much. If you're a horror fan that loves dark, gritty horror movies with like gore and stuff like that, this is the movie for you. Absolutely. And I'm not saying I don't like that. I'm just saying it feels a little bland and generic at times. And it's kind of leaning too much into the let's remake territory. So, also, I just wish it was more colorful. But the ending is absolutely incredible. And I love it for that. And then in second place, people are going to be surprised, I'm going to put Evil Dead 2. This is a very close call for me between Evil Dead 2 and Evil Dead Rise. I like both of them a lot. Evil Dead 2 definitely leans more into the comedy side of things, which I don't personally enjoy as much as like horror. So I think that's probably why this movie gets dropped down into second place. I think that the comedy is very well done. Bruce Campbell does a phenomenal job, all around S-tier performance in this movie. And I think that it's a little bit samey with the original, but overall, I think that it is a vast improvement over the original, and I think that it is a phenomenal movie, and I highly recommend it. And that means that first place for me is Evil Dead Rise. I just really like this movie. It has some of my favorite performances. Bruce Campbell in like Evil Dead 2, probably one of the best performances aside from like Alyssa Sutherland out of the franchise, but he is just one man. This movie has good performances all around. I like how it kind of meshes the horror and the comedy a little bit more. I like at least the balance. Like it's a little more horror than it is comedy. I think that it's fun for what it does for the lore, and I feel for the characters more than any of the other movies. This is the one where I go, I actually want these characters to live. Obviously, I want Ash to live, but he's not going to die because it's Ash Williams. But yeah, that's my final ranking of the Evil Dead movies. What are your favorites? What are your least favorites? Please let me know in the comments down below. What is it about the Evil Dead franchise that you like? And what are you looking forward to in the new installments? Because we have Burn, and I believe Evil Dead Wrath is also confirmed to be like a prequel movie. So I'm curious to see what they do with that. But yeah, I also, at the very end here, wanted to talk about Bruce Campbell. He has been diagnosed with an incurable cancer, but treatable. I know that he'll never watch this, but I just want to thank him dearly for all that he's done for not only this franchise, but for the horror community as a whole. He is genuinely one of the legends of this community, of horror in general, and I wish him nothing but the best. I know that it's not easy to go through something like that. I watched my mom go through it, and I just hope that Bruce is able to find comfort and happiness in whatever way he can, and I'm incredibly grateful for him. And yeah, I think that's where I get to end this video, or where I will end this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked, please like and subscribe. It means a lot to me. I truly love having you all here. I love hearing all your thoughts and stuff in the comments down below. And I love going through these franchises. It's truly one of my favorite things to do, even if it like wrecks my voice because I'm recording for so long afterwards. Again, thank you for being here. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.